All right, here we go. Overdrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we feeling on a Wednesday afternoon in Toronto?
Dude, I can't take the weather. I can't do it.
It's awful.
It's like, give me freezing cold and sun.
There's no sun. Like, dude, I saw today.
It's been Vancouver since November.
There's been like 30 hours of sun since winter started. 30 hours. We're, what, a month into winter at least? 30 hours of sun, man.
It's not cutting it,
It's
man.
really, really not good. I'm with you. Yeah. It's foggy. It's raining. Like, it's snowing one day, and then it's raining, and it's foggy, and it's dark. And, yeah, it's... I'm with you, man. We got
sucks.
golf. They're down at Torrey Pines, right? Your boy Nicky.
Is this the NFL Sunday where
Yes.
Nance has to be at the game so they're not they end the tournament on Saturday?
Wednesday to Saturday, I believe the only tournament all year on the PGA Tour where they go Wednesday through Saturday. Nicky Dunlap, your boy, pulled the chute. I guess because he couldn't win the money. He's like, what do I have to do now? I just won last week. I'm going to go to Torrey Pines and win too. And
well, dude, he should have turned pro as soon as he walked off that green.
I agree with you, but
cash,
yeah.
Right?
And I guess, he's got time to figure out when he wants to go pro. I saw Bob Weeks and Scully were doing a hit on SportsCenter last night, and Bob's pretty adamant that he's going to turn pro. And I think Bob thinks we'll see him at Pebble Beach next week. So more on that with role play level of concern later this afternoon, and we got a lot on the docket today. Eddie Olczyk will join us later in the hour. Darko's coming up. Darko Rajakovic will join us in about an hour. We're really looking forward to catching up with the Raptors head coach. He and his wife announced a really, really cool and important initiative today in conjunction with Sick Kids. So we'll catch up with Darko in about an hour. Obviously, there was a big story that broke this morning, courtesy of the Globe and Mail. 5 players from Canada's 2018 World Junior team have been directed to report to police in London to face charges of sexual assault. Again, that's according to the Globe and Mail. We would urge people to continue to track our coverage on that. Any updated news that comes out of that story, courtesy of tsn.ca and SportsCenter and others. That's obviously a story that we're not going to get into today. We're not qualified to get into today. There's not news other than what was reported this morning that we're going to delve into. But if and when news does come out, we will continue to address it. And again, with that said, you get the Leafs in action tonight. It sounds like your boy Larry Brossoit is going to play for the Jets tonight, Noodles. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised.
No. Sign of the cross.
Laurent Brossoit.
That's something the Leafs, they got to. I don't think Scheifele's playing.
No, he's not. Neither is Velarde, yeah.
Okay, so then Brossoit net, it's not like you start saying, okay, boys, let's actually try now. But you got a chance to maybe take advantage of some injury situations of different guys in the lineup.
You got the backup in net. Now, don't sleep on the backup. He's a pretty damn good goaltender. Mm-hmm. He's developed into a really good one. And the other thing is yes, Winnipeg lost the other night 4-1. To Boston, in Boston, and Scheifele and Velarde were not there. So you're missing, 2 of your top players, and you're playing your backup, probably giving Hellebuyck, the rest of the week off, and he'll play against the Leafs on the weekend. So, that's the thought process, probably from head coach Rick Bowness, but it's an opportunity on home ice, coming back off of the Western swing. They've got to have, for me, you got to have a good start, and we got to see what Samsonov has here going against a top-tier team, one of the best in the league.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at what's happening around the league. The Rangers are a mess right now. Like, the Rangers they're losing a lot of games recently. Vegas redeemed themselves last night after Bruce Cassidy called them out the night before, but they are really in a rut right now. LA is a mess right now. And
what do you equate the Wild Swings to, Hazy?
Well, I think there's probably too many teams in the league, yet they're going to continue to add more. If I'm going to be blunt, I think it's difficult to have like a really deep team in a 32-team league with a hard salary cap. I think it's just a really tough sport, right? It's a tough sport. It's a long grind. And really, it speaks to what Boston continues to do, right? Boston continues to do it. They have not lost a stride. They're not as good as they were last year, not as dominant, but not far off. Basically, since opening night, they just continue to play consistently great. And Vancouver's done that, and Winnipeg's done that. Maybe Colorado. But other than that, like Florida's in a bit of a rut. The Rangers are in a rut. Carolina's been in a rut. The Leafs have been in a rut. Obviously, like we referenced, Vegas, L.A., Edmonton's out of it now, but they were a disaster a month and a half ago. There's like 3 teams in the league that have just consistently played well all year. Everyone else has had to put out flames at different times.
Maybe that's who wins the Stanley Cup, whoever gets on their heater come playoff time.
Could be.
It's like if the Oilers started this heater at the first round of the playoffs, they win the Stanley Cup. Maybe that's who wins the cup, is who gets on that heater, because it's a crapshoot to see who can do that right now. Teams that looked like, I thought Vegas was going to just go legend this year, cup win, and they had a great start, and they won the other night. But it's just the ups and downs I find to be incredible. I don't remember anything like that.
I will say, I'm not going to give Vegas an excuse jar here, but they are banged up.
Yep,
they are legitimately, they are playing 7, 8 minor leaguers in their roster night. Like, if they were healthy, it'd be a different story. These other teams we're talking about, they're not depleted. They're just inconsistent. That's the difference. Like, I think Vegas has a little bit of an excuse where it's like, hey, we don't have our regulars, so we're going to just make do with what we have. Edmonton had their regulars. The Leafs have had their regulars for the most part. Joseph Wall, notwithstanding. But there's some teams here, Calgary, they're not banged up. You just want more from their top players. And, here's an opportunity for the Leafs to, on home ice, to kind of get the ship righted in the right direction against a really good team. You got a home and home. I think we said yesterday or 2 days ago when I was on the show, 500 in this back-to-back situation for them against the Winnipeg. I think we'd expect that or hope that.
Yeah, I think.
But
listen,
got to start tonight.
It's got to start tonight, and the Leafs have to continue to prove. They were in that group. They've been in that upper echelon of the NHL for years.
5
in the
years,
regular
at least.
season. Yeah, at least 5 years. They've been one of the 10 best teams in the league, consistently. Fluctuates based on how they're going, how you feel about their makeup. But I'm talking about the regular season. For at least 5 years, you've been that's one of the 10 best teams. They're a lock to make the playoffs, and it's all good. They need to get back to proving that that's the category they should be in, right? Because the way they've been playing so far this year would suggest that they're knocking on that door. At times they're in that group, but in times they're in the middle of the pack. At no point have they looked like a bottom third team in the league. They're not. But eye test, statistics, all that kind of stuff. You look at the way they've played, you're like, this is a team that needs to prove that they're not middle of the pack. And in order to do that, you better have confidence that you can beat anybody in the league. Doesn't mean you're going to, but if you're a top 10 team in the league, you believe you can beat anyone any given night. Any given night, you walk into a hockey rink, you say, we can walk out with 2 points. And I think that needs to be the case tonight. It needs to be the case on Saturday.
In the way they play, Hayes. I had people that were at the LA game, and they said, man, the Leafs were unbelievable. And they checked on, somebody commented the idea that the Leafs in LA, it was the best they've seen them check in years. And I was like, that's interesting. That's also great. But it's they have to come up with some kind of formula and understand that the joke's over. And if they've got to come up with a certain way to play every single night, as opposed to one night they check great, and then one night it's just their power play, and then the other night it's Auston Matthews. There's nothing sustainable right now. It's their approach is just, let's just see what happens tonight, and maybe Matthews gets a hat trick, and maybe Nylander tees off, maybe a goaltender can bail us out, but it's got to be that LA game 90% of the time, and 10% you don't have it, and whatever, you get beat by a good team. But how they haven't got to that or have that understanding, it frustrates people. And that's what it's got to be.
Well,
of course.
But the thing is the guys you pointed out, they're capable and they've showed it. I'd like to see a night where it's okay, it isn't Auston Matthews. It isn't Mitch Marner or William Nylander. It's hey, the third line bailed them out. Edmonton through this 14-game streak, there were times where McDavid and Draisaitl left off the board.
Yeah.
They played hard and they were good, but it was Ryan McLeod. It was Warren Foegele. Where is that? Where's Max Domi? Where is Yarncroke? Where is, the guys that were supposed to provide that secondary wave of offense? To me, that has been a struggle for this group consistently. And, maybe it's an opportunity tonight where if you get the ice time, you get the looks, that's where it isn't just going, okay, this guy delivered a 3-goal performance or 2 goals and they got some saves. it has to be a different formula every night to get it done. It just can't be, this is it, and if it doesn't happen, they don't win.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
I agree with you, and with that said, you got to have core values that you stick to all the time. Like I heard Rick Bowness the other night when they lost in Boston, and again, they lost 4-1. The fourth goal was an empty netter.
Yeah.
So effectively, they gave up 3 goals again for like 35 games in a row.
Yeah.
But he spoke about their core like principles of playing, how they break out, how they pass the puck, how they defend, what they expect to do that is going to cause a ripple effect for the opponent. And that's why, I think the jury's still out with Edmonton committing to this style of play, that they have to show they can do it. Game 7, Cup final, you're down 2-0 in the first period. Do you keep playing the right way or do you start cheating?
But haven't they given themselves a sample size, Hayes, where there's enough there to believe in it? You'd have to be a dummy. They should. It would have to be a dummy to deviate from that and think anything else would be the way to go.
I hear you, but listen, they've won 14 in a row. Of course you're going to do it right now. At some point, they're going to lose 2 or 3 in a row. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm not sitting here predicting they won't. And we're talking about Edmonton here. I'm just saying I don't think it's definitively, it's defined that they 100% will commit to this style. Well, because it's so effective, you should. Like, you look at McDavid as an example, and he scored last night. He's got 60 points in 41 games that he's played, which is a remarkable stat. But for him, he's out of the Hart race now. I know on FanDuel he's still got the second odds. There's no way he's going to win unless he ends up with 150 points because of the bar he's set. He set the bar so high that I don't think he can win. I don't think, and I think the way he's playing, it's like, he's not going out trying to chase a hat trick every night or 4 points or 5 points.
Think if you pulled him aside, Brian, and said, if they win the Stanley Cup, what do you think?
Of course he doesn't care about the Hart Trophy.
You know, it's funny, though, Brian. I think there is a chance that he still could be in that. What if he gets 120 points and somehow Edmonton wins the Pacific? And he's dragged them from last place to first. That was a Hart performance against the Leafs. And did he get a point that night? Maybe.
I don't remember if he did.
I don't think he was he didn't get a 4-point night type of thing. You're right. I know based on his standard 150 points, we're just looking at the sheer stats. Mm-hmm. But this guy in this 20, what did they won 22 of 25 or something like that? This guy is committed to play what they believe is the right way.
Absolutely.
And we talked about it. So does that not give you MVP votes based on, hey, it's not so much points, it's more what I'm dragging my team through?
I think it should, Noodles, but
because I'm voting and I would vote for him in my top 5.
Yeah, I'm not saying he won't be nominated or can't be in the top 5 or likely. Right. What I'm saying is to win it, he set the standard so high last year. And who referenced his defensive play last year? Nobody did. They were like, the guy scored 64 goals and had 153 points. That's why he won. No one was like,
no one ever has.
No one ever has. So all of a sudden he's going to get credit for that? I don't think so. But here's what I will say, and I thought of this today, and I'll throw this out to you guys. I think if they storm back and win the Pacific, the guy who's got a chance to win an award is Skinner. Skinner's a guy that could get back in the Vezina race. If he starts another 35 games and ends up with just a remarkable statistical run and all these wins and they break records and they catch the Pacific, why wouldn't Skinner be back in the conversation for the Vezina?
It's an interesting, viewpoint.
His stats are crazy. He did it again last night.
You know what? And he was great last night. I thought he made some really good, that was a dead game. The first 2 periods, no good. The Oilers were ripe for the picking. They just turned it on in third, did what they need to do, and won the game. Skinner made 27 saves. He made some really good saves at timely, points of the game. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. Right now, if you ask me, it's a 2-headed race between Hellebuyck and Demko. But you're right. You. If he force feeds in and says, you know what, I'm taking this team and we're going to try and catch Vancouver, or we're going to catch them, you're right. There has to be.
If it's going to apply to McDavid, why would it not apply to him?
Exactly. It's a great point. It's a great point. He deserves the flowers.
Well, his statistics are great. Again, Hellebuyck's are so good. Demko doesn't lose. Demko is 13-1-1 in his last 15.
That Skinner turnaround, though, that's incredible.
It is.
Because as much as Jack Campbell was in trouble at the beginning of the year, Skinner wasn't too far behind him as far as the eye test went. It was there was 2 or 3 bad ones going in a lot of nights, and that was a massive part of the problem. And it had a tough look to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
incredible turnaround.
It's an incredible turnaround, and again, I think a large part of the turnaround is they've obviously put a lot of emphasis on detail and defending it, but he's made stops too.
Yeah, he does.
Like that's
he's
a big part of it too. Is he's made a lot of stops. So again, I think it's very difficult for him to catch Hellebuyck or catch Demko, but I think it's equally as difficult for McDavid to do it. Like Kucherov's got 80 points. He had 4 points last night.
I know.
Like the guy's got 80 points.
That's disgusting.
He might end up with 145 points. Like if he does that, I know it's not the exact equivalent as McDavid from last year, but it won't be far off.
Yeah.
Like it will not be far. He could end up with 55 goals and 145 points. And if he drags them into the playoffs, which is what he's doing. 2 weeks ago, I thought Tampa was starting to really fall off. Now all of a sudden they win every night. And a lot of it's because 86 down there has decided, or Kucherov down there has decided, I'm going to take over.
No, I agree.
Like it's pretty, that's going to be tough to beat. To say nothing of McKinnon, who I think we all anointed the Hart winner like a week ago when we saw him play here.
You know what it does speak to, though? Outside of the inconsistency, there's some great performances that we're not overlooking here. Like, there's like McKinnon's on another planet, Kucherov, Matthews is on a pace, McDavid's doing it, a different way. Like there's some good hockey to be had out there. Amongst some of the tire fires you got to navigate through, where there's some tough play.
Yeah.
And the Rangers are in that boat. Like there are some teams that are kind of struggling right now to try and find their game. So, maybe it's this midseason. Guys are limping right into this All-Star break and hoping to have a reset because, after the All-Star break, there's the kind of the stretch and then the trade deadline.
Absolutely. All right, Eddie Olczyk coming up this hour. We'll get his take on the Leafs Jets tonight. He's an alumni of both, right? The Jets might be bringing the cup back to Winnipeg. Maybe Eddie O has to show up, right? In that famous speech.
And he'll be Brett Hull for the Blues. He'll be Eddie O for the Jets.
That would be great.
We went.
We went,
Jets.
Oh, we got to hear that.
What was the other song he started singing?
It was Gloria, wasn't it? Weren't you singing Gloria?
Yeah.
But he was,
I think you got my number.
We went. Like everyone's like, what is he talking about?
He was like, at first he was like, you don't have to say let's go Blues because we went. And he started going,
let's go Blues. We're going to say we went Blues.
I've never seen a guy get pulled out of a speech. Like he almost got the hook.
I've never seen an alumni take over the parade. There's never been anything like that Blues alumni who just decided.
Do we have the Gloria one?
Glory, Gloria. 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 I think I got the number. Gloria.
Brett Hull just
He had a
loving
good
life.
time, man.
He was
He had a
really
good
happy the
time.
Blues won. Like really happy. So yeah, we'll catch up with Eddie later this afternoon. Darko's coming out. Darko Rajakovic, the head coach of the Raptors, will join us. Get his take on what's been a struggle recently for them. Pirtle being out, the trades recently. This is a transition for a lot of guys on that team. How are they handling it? How do they, move forward here? We're still getting closer to the trade deadline, where I think most people are anticipating deals are going to continue surrounding the Raptors. So Darko's coming up just after 5 o'clock, and role play level of concern at 5:30. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Our buddy Eddie Olczyk coming up here in a moment. I saw that the Green Bay Packers have already signed a free agent kicker out of Georgia. It took them, how many days? It took them 5 days to say, we need some competition here. We need another option at kicker. Maybe could have looked into that a week ago, Matt LaFleur and company, but...
you can't go back to the guy where the coach says before the game, he scares the hell out of us, and we just close our eyes and hope he makes the kick.
Yeah, that's not good.
How does he even make it that far?
That's a great question. That is a great question. Your whole season is on the line, and it's on some guy's foot, and you have no faith he can do it. Yeah, he can't be surprised. Like, obviously, you're leaving the stadium thinking, I guess that, of course, that happened. Now, they could have gotten a stop. They were still up 4 points, and they allowed, Purdy and McCaffrey and company to charge down the field and punch in a touchdown. But still, come on.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest fix would have been to have a trusted kicker, would it not?
Ideally, that would be the case.
Somebody that you believe in, where the coach is like, no, I'm terrified that this guy has to kick, and it's only your season on his foot.
Yeah, you're only in the divisional round against a huge rival that has owned you in the playoffs for years. Why wouldn't you put out a guy that you have no faith in?
How about Luke? He just said he would not acknowledge the kickers.
Because I didn't talk to them to start off with, and he goes, if that guy, he goes, I wouldn't even talk to him, wouldn't even look at him.
I know, it's sickening, man.
Tough.
Like they already know. Like there's got to be a self-esteem issue to begin with if you're a kicker, because you understand, like you're a part of the team, but it's a very unique position. And then when you miss in the biggest moment in a playoff game like that, you just know there are guys in there that are wired in a way that you just have to avoid them. Like, I'm guessing you just sit at the front of the bus, you get to the plane, you sit at the front of the plane with the coaches, and you go home and you see them at OTAs. You know, there's not really much more to the relationship than that.
Is there a kicker that makes, like, huge bank? Like, what if kickers – I haven't even checked. Like, would a kicker make $5 million a year?
Yeah.
There was a kicker with an attitude in Indy. Who was that guy?
You're talking
glasses?
No, you're talking Vanderjack.
Vanderjagt.
Yeah, he was the one that carved Peyton Manning. He was doing
I
TV
think
up
Manning
here.
hated him.
Oh, he destroyed. It was the end of the road. That was worse than missing a big kick. You start going at the star quarterback. I'm pretty sure never played another game for the Colts. He was
Vanderjagt.
He was doing TV up here. He was on the score. Yeah. He was doing TV hits on the score. I don't remember who was doing the hit with him, but it was during the playoffs, and they got into a conversation, and he started talking about Peyton Manning and indicating that Peyton
choked in the playoffs.
Yeah, it was basically a playoff choker. Like, didn't have what it took. And then it got back to Peyton Manning, who was at the Pro Bowl, and just blasted him. Find that audio if you can, JP, because he calls him like a drunk kicker that's spouting off and an idiot. And
wow,
I'm pretty sure Vanderjagt never kicked again for the Colts.
Yeah, he's a Canadian kid. I'm
he is.
reading about it right now. Wow.
Yeah, that one hurt. That one hurt for Vanderjagt. That was kind of like when Stephen Ames called Tiger Woods out and said he's hitting it all over the planet, and then lost 10-8 in match play, which that one hurt too.
Yeah.
You don't call out the GOAT, and you don't call out Peyton Manning. It's very simple.
That's true.
All right, so Eddie Olczyk coming up here in just a moment. Leafs at home against the Jets tonight. We'll ask him about the Oilers as well, winning 14 straight. And, there's a lot going on, clearly, in the NHL right now. So Eddie will join us. We got Darko coming up in about a half an hour. The Raptors are back in action with the Clippers in town, which, we've had a lot of Lowry through town, DeMar through town. You can have Kawhi and Norman Powell come through town. It does feel like it's kind of a nostalgic, interesting crossover considering where the Raptors are at. Right.
Does Kawhi even acknowledge the crowd?
Yeah,
I don't remember his last time back in the building. Like his return, I don't remember the reset because he's such a quiet dude. I could see him saying, "Don't even do anything on the jumbotron. I don't want it." Thing.
I remember the first time he came back was before COVID. He came. I want to say he was here in November of 19, and I remember him doing a scrum, and they acknowledged him, and he did his thing, he waved or whatever, and that was it. And he's been back a couple of times since. And, you're not going to do a big kumbaya thing for Kawhi every time he comes back. You're not going to run a video for him. Although I do wonder if fans would be receptive to that.
I think so.
Every time he's back, or every time Lowry's back or whatever, it's like, hey, we just want to acknowledge. At one point, it was really, really cool, tracking this team and seeing what they're all about.
I was in Philly the other day, called a game, and my Uber driver was talking about, the Sixers and stuff like that, and he was talking about Nick Nurse, and I said, how's it with Nick? And he said, well, he made it work with Kawhi. I don't know how it's going to go down here with Embiid. He was a hardcore fan, too, and he was talking about how, you have to earn it with the fans down there. And I said, well, listen, you know what? Nick won a championship. Like I said, he's a god in Toronto regardless because he delivered a championship. And he was talking about Kawhi, too. He said, you know what, Kawhi showed up, delivered a championship, left. He goes, he should be a god there. He helped that.
Well, he did. I mean, there's no disputing that. It sucked that he left. I never thought there was anything wrong with admitting that it sucked that he left.
Right.
Like some people were trying to play like mental gymnastics that it's totally okay. No, it's not. It would have been great if he returned and he doubled down and tried to win again.
I just would have hoped and wished for to run it back one time and have a chance again. And then after that, go do whatever you want.
Exactly. Have a 1-year player option, opt out the next year. Even if you win again, you can leave.
Yes.
Give us one more year.
Yes.
Come on now. Give us one more year. Now, what's wild is that one more year would have been COVID hitting, which means then he would have gone into the bubble as a Raptor. And then, well, it was the next year it was Tampa. So he would have been out of there by that point, like without doubt. But, yeah, the Clippers are rolling through. And again, Darko's coming up in about a half an hour. So we'll catch up with him. Role play level of concern in about an hour. But you got Leafs Jets tonight and a lot going on in the NHL. And here's an alumni of both teams. And you know him from the NHL on TNT, former Leaf, one of our buddies, one of our favorites, Eddie Olczyk. How you doing, Eddie?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing pretty well, man. It looks like the Jets, they might be bringing that cup back to Winnipeg. If that happens, do you get up there or what?
Oh, you know it. You know it. I've had a few, I'm not going to say 1,000, but I'm going to say some hundreds of texts and messages and voicemails and emails and all that other stuff. And, yeah, it's people are pretty jacked up. I know they're jacked up in Vancouver for sure, but I think just as much, and rightfully so, in Winnipeg. And you think about, I mean, all the injuries that they've had and see where they are. And, you know, obviously that's just a testament to the leadership and inside the room. And obviously with Bones and Scotty Arniel and, you know, just the entire organization. So they played stretches with no Connor, right? They played without Scheifele. I mean, you know, they've had some guys miss some time. And, the guy in goal is, you know, look at, he's my Vezina winner currently right now. And look, I mean, and I know Edmonton's on their heater, but like, when you look at Connor Hellebuyck and you look at the numbers and where the Jets are and you project them, like you could argue Connor Hellebuyck is as important as any player in the league. You know, like, would he get any Hart votes? I would be hard pressed to say that he he would not. I think that there is going to be some tough decisions for the voters, and if the Jets continue to do what they're doing and looking like they're going to be, right there up at the top of the Western Conference and the entire National Hockey League. So, great story. Happy for the people in the Peg, and we'll see how far they can take it.
How surprised are you, Eddie? I know Pierre-Luc Dubois, I'm sure everyone in Winnipeg was disappointed. He exits. They bring in other really good quality players, but I'm sure people in Edmonton were like, man, another star player gone, but they seem to have fixed the room, and they're really cooking right now. Every year for the pregame or the pre-playoff show, I had picked Edmonton or Winnipeg, and this year I'm like, I'm done picking them, and now I got to go back to the well again and pick Winnipeg again.
Yeah, I'll just say this about Dubois. Like, I mean, look, the guy obviously didn't want to be there, and it's a loss for him. Like, I know I played there a long, long time ago, but I mean, it was one of the best places I ever played, and I'm sorry that he didn't want to be there. And you know what? That's his problem. It ended up being a game for the Winnipeg Jets in the city of Winnipeg, and look at that. Kevin Cheveldayoff made a hell of a trade there and got some really, really impactful players in the return. And, quite frankly, I mean, Dubois has been average at best in LA, and, he's on the hook for the next, 8 years or whatever it is, with, 8 schmil or whatever the number ended up being. So I just think chemistry is, as you guys know, I mean, chemistry is such an important part of a locker room, and, you move some players out, you give other players opportunities to be the leaders and kind of change the direction and the voice. And so, I actually thought that long term that it would be better for them if they moved on from a guy that didn't want to be there. And look, he played, he had some good games, but it wasn't like he was a dominating player in Winnipeg. And then when, the guy doesn't want to be there, well, then you know what? Then you do everything in your power to make the best deal you can. And I think that certainly the Jets did that, and the proof's in the success and the record that they're having right now.
Eddie, we were talking about before you came on, basically Winnipeg, Vancouver, Vegas before the injuries were the only teams that kind of hadn't hit the ditch this season. Everyone else, there's been a lot of inconsistencies. There's been streaks. Right. What do you make of that? I mean, is it just a long season and guys struggling to find their top game? Is it, Hayes was talking about maybe 32 teams in the league, a little bit watered down. Like, what do you make of, the wild swings that we're seeing throughout the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to really put noodles on any one or two specific things. I just think when you look at, teams in general, is that, at times teams are going to play, they're going to play above their head and they're going to get on a little bit of a heater, and then all of a sudden you get an injury or a sickness and all of a sudden it's going to go sideways. But, the teams that can put the money in the bank early and really not have any of these where you go maybe 6 or 7 where you only win one game. But you mentioned those other teams, and it just seems like they've been able to go on some, just the consistency aspect of it. And, I know Edmonton's absolutely on they're on a heater of all heaters right now, but, you would think that at some point, that they're going to get knocked down and they are going to probably lose 4 or 5, right? But people have been saying that about Vancouver and Winnipeg, and it hasn't happened at least to this point, and that's a credit, obviously, as I said earlier, in Winnipeg with the coaching staff and to be able to do it. So I really, I couldn't tell you, but I just think that it's a lot like the game. With the way that the games are played, and there are such momentum swings in the games from within. I mean, when we saw each other in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, kind of just talking about the Senators and the Kraken, and like in games, like you see these massive swings in games where a team's got all the momentum. And, maybe they're able to put up 2 or 3 goals, and then, if you're the other team, it's like, well, we got to get the momentum on our side. Well, the fact of the matter is before you can get the momentum on your side, you got to stop it that's coming your way, right? And then when you do get it back on your side, regardless of what it is, a goalie making a save, a fight, a big penalty kill, a big offensive play, well, then what do you do with it when you are going good? And I think that there might be some similarities there from games and watching now with the way that the game is played. Is I think maybe you could take it, and there is no better feeling, though, is when you go to the rink or you're an individual and you're on a run. I remember we talked, what was that, maybe 2 seasons ago now, or even last year, I can't remember, but when Marner was on his role, and it's just like, you go to the rink and you just know you're going to contribute. And it's no different for teams. You just know that you're going to go to the rink, and doesn't matter who you're playing or what the schedule's been or how many guys you got out of the lineup, is you're just going to find a way to win games. And there is no better feeling. So long-winded, I have no idea why, but I just think with the way that the league is now and the way that the games are played, is that when you're feeling it, and you play the right hand, you got a chance to do some real special things.
With Eddie Olczyk, Eddie, we love talking ponies with you and capping what we might see with the thoroughbreds in the future. There's no greater thoroughbred in the league when it comes to goal scoring than Auston Matthews. How would you handicap his chances of scoring 70 this year?
Oh, man, after the goal he scored in Seattle the other night, I almost fell out of my chair. I was doing the game locally, and, I'm not surprised. It's just like, just the patience, though, to be able to get that puck. I think that's the one thing. Anytime I get a chance to be around young hockey players and just to be able to instruct or teach and just say, look, like the guys that are able to get the puck and just take a breath, like just inhale a little bit and just know, okay, this is how much time I have, and I'm going to shoot the puck when I want, And then there's other times when you're in a mad scramble where, guys will be able to get it, pull it out of the pile, and then go ahead and drift it into the back of the net. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, I just love watching him play, and obviously having ties to Toronto and him playing the center ice position and just being able to, to do what he does. And it doesn't seem like all players have tough nights or off nights, or some nights are different, much more difficult than others. But it just seems to me from afar, and again, I said I watched the game here in Seattle the other night, it just seems like it's I don't want to say it's always there for him, but he's always right around it. I love the saying of, nose over the puck mentality. And for a guy like Auston Matthews, he just seems to be able to be right in it and right over it. And so look, can he get to 70? Hell yes, he can. I mean, why can't he? Because he just has that ability. There are very few guys, and Old Dog can speak to this because he was a great goal scorer, is that the real difference is that the great ones only need a couple of chances to put the puck in the back of the net. And now those guys, they get more than a couple of chances, per game. But most guys need, 8, 10, 12 chances to put one into the back of the net. A guy like Auston Matthews, all he really needs, I mean, I'm sure on some nights he probably, has that feeling of, I just need one shot, and if I get one shot, it's going in. Very, very few players ever can breathe that type of air, and he certainly is one of those guys. So, it would be unbelievable to see, and he just seems like he's in that zone, and you guys know better than anybody is, if he has that knack to get 5 in 3 games, right, and do that a couple of times over the course of the last, so-called half of the season or post All-Star game. Why not? Why can't he start? Why can't he be pushing with, 10 games to go and having 61 or 62 goals? I mean, that's just unheard of. But if there's going to be a guy, at least right now, that looks like he's going to be able to do it, absolutely, it could be Auston Matthews.
Absolutely. Leafs Jets tonight. It's going to be a fun one, Eddie. Enjoy it, and we'll do this again down the road. Thank you for this, as always.
All right, I'll have one eye on that game, and then I'll be prepared for our TNT broadcast. We got the second half of the doubleheader tonight. We got the Kraken and Blackhawks here in Seattle. So you guys be well, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
You too, buddy. Thank you for this.
Eddie. Okay, see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Eddie Olczyk of the NHL on TNT. Sure, they were planning on Connor McDavid being a big part of that telecast tonight, but he's going to be out at least another 6 weeks. So, yeah, thanks to Eddie, and, Leafs Jets tonight. It's going to be a fun game. It should be a fun game. And I found it hilarious last night. Michael Andlauer sitting ringside, like in his seats. His seats. He's had those, I guess, season tickets at the Bell Center for a long time, and that was the last time, I guess, they allow. Like, is that how I read that?
Yeah.
That, like, the league basically said, we'll give you one off. You can go down there and experience it as an owner. Then you got to get out of there.
Well, he has to give them back to Montreal. He's got season tickets. He can't have season tickets to the Montreal Canadiens.
Right.
Like
they'll sell those to someone else, like a legit Habs fan, ideally, because now he's obviously not a Canadian supporter. Yeah,
he had to give up his minority stake in the Habs and give up his season tickets. So him and his wife, and I think that was their son or, somebody in their family, were sitting there. And it's weird. You've got this multi-billionaire just kind of hanging out on the glass, and he's loving it. Obviously, it was a good game. Ottawa's played some pretty good hockey recently, which is nice for everybody involved. And for him, I think it was kind of emotional, because he's been in those seats as probably a Habs fan, as an owner, and all of that, and now he's the owner of the other team, and giving them up. So apparently that was the last time he would be able to sit there. So they went out.
That was
the
pretty
bang.
cool. Yeah, and then like you said, he was supporting them like they won last night. They played well. Pinto scores, which is big.
Yeah.
And
that's O-Dog's guy.
Yeah, Shane Pinto. And listen, I'm telling you, Ottawa's going to do it again. They're going to be unreal down the stretch, and then everyone's going to say, this is it. I'm telling you, next year. And
next year, conference finals.
100%. Everyone should watch out. Watch out out there. If you're the Bruins, watch out. You better watch out because here comes Ottawa. They're going to suck everyone back in. I guarantee it. But I did love seeing that last night. I thought that was really cool. And I saw some people online suggesting, like, I don't know if you want to be down there, man. Like, Canadians fans, they may really give it to you. And I don't think that's what you have to worry about at all. You got to worry about Gary from Napanee, who's had 15 beers and wants to tell you why you should have hired Patrick Waugh.
Yeah.
Like, that's who you need to avoid.
Yeah, you get some booze bag, just had 100 drinks.
Not the Canadians fan. It's the
I wouldn't have been able
Sens
to do it.
fan.
Yes, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah. Hey, Anlauer, you got to hire this guy.
My buddy, he coaches in, under 17. He's the best. You got to hire him.
You got to hire this guy. He met Alfie once back in the day. Ask Alfie. Alfie would remember.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Alfie
you.
would remember.
Thank you for your contribution. All right, Darko's coming up. Darko Rajokovic, the head coach of the Raptors. He'll join us in about 20 minutes. Role play level of concern in about 45 minutes. Our friend Sarah Orleski coming up, too. Sarah's in town, of course, covering the Jets. So we'll get her take on Winnipeg tonight. Leafs Winnipeg on Saturday night. Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, still to come as well. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day. The 2024 Bell Let's Talk Day campaign highlights mental health statistics that show why real change is needed. We can all join in and help create real change in mental health at home, at school, or work, and in our communities. And by doing something to support your own mental health or the mental health of someone you know, together let's create real change in mental health in Canada. For ideas of how you can take action on Bell Let's Talk Day and every day, visit bell.ca/let's talk. Okay, Darko's coming up in about 15 minutes. Really cool initiative that he and his wife have launched to raise money for sick kids. We'll tell you about that. We'll get into that conversation with Darko, and we're going to have to revisit, the road trip, the Lakers game. Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things we're going to get into.
The presser.
Yeah, the presser. Absolutely. And listen, they're losing games. They're in a tough spot. They're a very young team. You trade Siakam, he's an all-NBA type talent. You trade Anunoby. He's maybe the best wing defender in the NBA.
Scotty Barnes.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And this is going to be a challenge for a coach. So it's not that I'm telling Darko anything he's not aware of, but and I guess it became official today, the Milwaukee Bucks have hired Doc Rivers. So, and
That's
they're trying
a crazy hire, man. I know they wanted a veteran coach, but isn't Doc known for coughing up 3-1 series leads?
Yes.
It's just
yes. Like he did win a championship in Boston.
He did.
Big three. He's got that ring. You can never. That always has to come with the conversation that Doc did win, but he's been up big in series. Like remember when he was the head coach of the Sixers a few years ago, and they were up 3-0 in that series or 3-1. And Scotty Barnes, remember, was hurt. He was a rookie, and he hurt his ankle, and they came back, and they pushed it to 6, and everyone was like, oh, my God, Doc's going to do it again.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to fall off again for Doc Rivers. But I guess they're trying to indicate that they didn't have Doc Rivers lined up prior to firing Adrian Griffin, as if anybody on earth is going to believe that.
Because he signed with ESPN?
Yeah, which really jams up ESPN. Like, they moved off.
But it's
Van
almost
Gundy
like a backdoor deal where it's like, look, Griff, we're going to bring you in. We don't really like you, but can you want to sign, and then we'll just gas you after 45 games? Like, I don't know. It's bizarre, man.
Yeah, it is bizarre. I don't believe they hired Griffin with the intention of not giving him an opportunity
you got to admit,
thrive.
it's just, the whole thing is a bizarre scenario.
It's really bizarre.
Like Doc Rivers was like, okay, I'm going to do TV now. And then 45 games later, he's already back behind the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's and now what an opportunity for Doc Rivers. Like the Bucks are a great team.
Yeah, what about my guy Jeff Van Gundy? Like
I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with
They gas him for Doc. And now Doc's gone. Are they going to call him back and say, hey, any interest?
I can't imagine that happens, but I guess
either.
anything's possible, right? Because it was Mark Jackson, too, and now it's Mike Breen and Doris Burke. Like, that's their A team in the NBA on ESPN. So I don't know. Maybe it's just Mike and Doris Burke. I'm not sure what they end up doing, but yeah, I'm curious because Doc Rivers will step in. He's going to immediately command respect. I would have to believe Giannis was a part of this process, like both getting rid of Griffin and bringing in Doc Rivers. That, it's all about keeping Giannis happy, and he just signed that extension, and they want to get back to winning championships in Milwaukee, and it's a great setup for him. Like if you're Doc, you couldn't ask for anything better. You're walking into a team that's won a lot of games and has a ton of talent. Like you're not building something from the ground up. Perfect situation for him. So, yeah, we'll see.
It's only perfect if they win it all, because if they don't, it's going to fall right back on him that you couldn't get the job done. There was an expectation that bringing you in would kind of lead the charge, and it'll be right back on him. Like that guy looks stressful on the bench, man, when they don't make it happen.
Yes.
He will be so stressed.
Yeah. No question. I mean, that's the nature of being a pro coach, like a coach in pro sports. Like you guys have talked about it, man. That's why, like we referenced the Darko rant in LA. Like that was a guy that was stressed out and he felt like his team got jobbed.
Scotty Barnes.
And he was furious. And I'm sure he didn't calm down like immediately afterwards.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, so Darko Rajakovic is coming up.
Ask him about it, though? Do you want to ask him
I think we asked
that?
him about, the moment, how he responded to it, the fine. Like that was his first fine as a head coach in the NBA.
I think we can put it in general terms. Say there's been a lot of coaches getting fined lately.
Yeah.
Like how frustrating is it and how stressful is it trying to get wins?
Absolutely. It's not easy. It's a tough business. So Darko's coming up. Role play level of concern. Hour 2 up next. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.